Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the ODI and to this meeting, which is jointly hosted by the ODI and the Royal African Society. My name is Richard Dowden. I'm Director of the Royal African Society. We're here at a very crucial moment where the power struggle has become suddenly very, very, very much superheated. And I guess the two positions are the view that we need to change the world based on power to one based on law, and that justice should become international, and a view that this is a neo-colonial political conspiracy, a one-way street, and the only people who've been arrested so far, or the majority of them, are in Africa, easily accessible, few allies. Why not Israel? Even why not Bush or Blair? When they're arrested, maybe it'll become a real international criminal court, but until then, it looks like a conspiracy by the West. And that's another view which has gained quite a lot of sympathy in many developing countries. And in the middle, I think most of us would feel international justice. Yes, that people should be held responsible, but is this a distraction from the political process that can bring peace? How can you arrest somebody when you're also trying to negotiate with them? Not a good way of bringing peace, and bearing in mind that historically most of Africa's wars, anyway, have ended in a no winner, no loser deal where the criminals have often walked free. I would just say, although this is a very, very heated debate, I would ask everybody, first of all, to identify themselves and then be as polite as they can be, and to try and keep the rationality higher than the emotion when we're discussing this. We're delighted to have Ambassador Omar Siddig, who is the Ambassador of Sudan to the UK, and formerly he was Ambassador to Germany, and before that the Director of the Department of Peace and Humanitarian Affairs, and before that the Executive Director of the Office of the Foreign Affairs Minister. And he will be talking about Sudan's reaction to the indictment. Julie Flint began work on Sudan in 1992 for The Guardian, and more recently as a consultant on Darfur to various groups and organizations. She began working in Khartoum and then moved to the Nuba Mountains during the war there, and made a film in 1995 on the Nuba Sudan secret war. The government of Sudan responded to the film by saying that she'd never been to the Nuba Mountains. She was the first journalist, I think, certainly in Britain, to report on Darfur as early as 2002, and she wrote the first Human Rights Watch report from Darfur in 2004. She's also the co-author of two books on Darfur. A Short History of a Long War, which is in the African Argument series, and is highly recommended, not least because it's part owned by the Royal African Society. We benefit financially from it. Sarah Pantiliano is the program leader of the Humanitarian Policy Group here at ODI, and she leads the Crisis Response and Transitional Programming team. She's a political scientist with extensive experience in programming in conflict and post-conflict contexts, particularly in Sudan, and she led the UNDP's Sudan's peace building unit and worked in the Nuba Mountains. So I shall begin by asking Ambassador to step up and tell us about Sudan's response. And
yes.
If you could come up here, and please keep your response to about 10 minutes. Is that okay?
Great.
All right.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. And I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for turning up to this event. I also want to thank ODI and the Royal Society for Africa, Royal African Society. Well, as you may expect, we are really disappointed by the decision taken by the ICC. And, but we were not surprised at all, bearing in mind the movements by Ocampo involving in political activism and media campaigns. Therefore, the entire process, if I can put it in short words, we see it is not a legal process, and we are not interested at all in involving in an illegal thing. Resolution 1593 by the Security Council that referred the situation of Darfur to the ICC is still, for us, is full of flawed legal aspects. And the mere fact that the Security Council refers a situation of a state that does not necessarily mean that the state is bound by the provisions of that agreement. So let us assume a state is not member or state party to the, for example, chemical weapons, for example. If there is a referral by the Security Council that non-state party cannot in any way be construed as member and bound by the provision of that agreement. The way the ICC conducted its job, I think, also is full of legal voids, focusing mainly on articles that serves its purpose. There are other articles, particularly neglected, actually, that precludes the ICC from indicting a head of a state, because heads of the state, according to international convention, international law, common international law, are immune. And the referral by the Security Council does not permit the ICC to indict a president. The behavior of the prosecutor also is another serious allegation, serious doubts about it. The evidential list the prosecutor collected, we think that is also one-sided. He never visited Darfur. We had hoped if he had visited Darfur, although an invitation was extended to him, he never showed in Darfur. He just collected his so-called evidence from certain sites, so mainly a sort of a hearsay evidence. Sudan's position is shared by many, of course. The African Union, member states of the Arab League, the Organization of Islamic Conference, the Group of 77 in China, the ACP, that's the African Caribbean Pacific states. The Security Council, to our mind, shouldn't have referred this issue to the ICC, because it is an internal problem. The Security Council should be the highest political organ in the United Nations, and the mere fact that it is referred by the Security Council, it gave the political dimension to a legal problem or a political internal problem, which could have been solved politically and amicably. And the Security Council now is rejecting pleas by the African Union and the Arab League, and we think that is against Article 8 of the Charter, because Article 8 deals with the relationship between the Security Council or the United Nations in general and regional organizations, and in cases of regional problems, the priority goes to the regional organizations. Nevertheless, the Security Council doesn't want to listen to the regional organizations. Immunities of heads of state is very paramount in international law, and when the Security Council referred the issue to the ICC, it never mentioned that the investigations could go up to the head of state. Another important thing is that we really question the wisdom behind the entire move. Is it helpful to the peace in Darfur? I don't think it's helpful at all, because we kept always saying any involvement from the ICC will complicate the already entangled position in Darfur. And what we said came true, because now the rebel movement has started building up forces and their military personnel, mainly to escalate the war. And when they escalate the war, which will be very unfortunate, that will definitely add to the miseries and plight of our people in the refugee and internal displaced camps. Therefore, we call upon them seriously and honestly to lay down their arms. Let us sit together to solve the problem, because a problem such as that in Darfur cannot in any way be solved through the barrel of the gun. They can only be negotiated and solved. As I said earlier, the position of the government is shared by many, of course. And 2 days ago, Abdullah Wade, the president of Senegal, and by the way, Senegal is a member, is a state party to the ICC. He said this is a selective justice, only focusing on Africa. Yamping, the chairman of the African Commission, also expressed the position of the Africans on the same lines. The African Union and the Arab League are sending delegations down to New York. The president of the General Assembly yesterday issued a very strong statement saying that this is not helpful at all to the problem of Darfur. From our side, definitely, as I said, we are not going to deal with it, because simply we believe the judicial system of the Sudan is functioning and is capable of addressing any violations in Darfur. Commissions have been established, and even trials are still going on. Some of top army officers, security officers, police officers were sentenced. This is in addition to people, individuals who committed crimes in Darfur. The investigations are still going on. Of course, we always respect our obligations under international law. We abide by the conventions and agreements we are party to. Foreigners definitely will be protected. People hit to the street, thousands and millions of people hit to the street in support of their president. But fortunately, nothing has happened, because people were able to constrain their anger. The timing of this indictment is really a bad time, because we are in the process of building peace in our country. We are in the process of the democratization of the country. Perhaps Sarah and Julie Clinton will talk about that later. I think I stop here, and any voice will be filled in through questions and answers.
Thank you very much.